Now, here to help me make sense of the many marvels and pitfalls of VR games and hardware is tech journalist David McClelland. David, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
So, as I've been talking about, one of the challenges of VR hardware, that people seem to think that they can take an existing game, specifically first-person experiences, just drop that into VR and everything will be fine. But that's not really the case, is it?
Doesn't work. I mean, I think there are two main challenges for developers in a way. There's the hardware platforms, and whether they are performant enough to be able to keep up with the VR experiences that developers are trying to create. And also there's lots of different platforms as well, whether it's Oculus, Vive, or PlayStation VR, or mobile VR as well. But then, as you allude to, there's also the software challenge as well. And really, when we're talking about VR, it's a different vocabulary. It's a different language that I don't think developers or even us as gamers actually know yet. It is this kind of frontier land. So more than ever before, developers are having to test, and it's not, you know, testing to find glitches or to find quirks in your gaming engine or in whatever world you've created. It's to test to see whether stuff fundamentally works. So there are so many challenges, from hardware, from logistics, to actually we don't know what content works yet in VR. It's very exciting, but as a studio there's a lot of risk involved in it as well, because you need to invest a lot of time, a lot of money to create a decent experience, yet at the end of it you just don't know if it's going to work.
I mean, how do you see virtual reality benefiting these sort of slower paced, more kind of exploratory experiences?
It is that curiosity, human curiosity. It is exploration. I think the reason that virtual reality works very well in those experiences is because when we're playing games on a normal screen, for example, it's almost a projection, an avatar of ourselves that's kind of different to us. So some of our innate human instincts kind of get lost in that distance. When we have presence, when we're immersed, it is more often than not, and this might be another bit that changes as, you know, VR develops, it's us in that world. So we're much closer to our emotions, we're much closer to our instincts as well. And instinctively, we like to explore. Now, it might be that there's a sense of novelty. It's like, hey, I'm in a village in Shropshire. Brilliant, let's explore, let's pick up rocks, let's look behind walls. I question whether we would do that in real life to the same degree, and whether it's just because there's the novelty of VR that encourages us to take a little bit more time and a bit more care. But, you know, while the instinct's there, let's celebrate it. Let's see where it takes us next.
One of the other things that the Vive in particular brings is also a degree of freedom of movement. Most VR experiences have to be quite static. Oculus and PlayStation VR, you really are sat where you are and you can stand up, sit down maybe. But Vive has these added sensors that allow you to actually move around the environment a little bit. Do you think that actually will contribute to the sense of immersion, or do you think it actually could make things slightly more disorientating almost for people if they're stood in their living room and suddenly they think they're stood in the middle of a giant art gallery or on the prow of a ship or on the International Space Station?
Look, you remember when the Wii first came out, when we had full vision and we were holding, you know, a little controller and a nunchuck. We still couldn't help ourselves from, you know, throwing them at the television and bumping into the furniture, let alone when we've got a virtual reality headset. You know, and I certainly don't have a big enough living room to be able to walk around it without crashing into things. So I think there are definitely some practical limitations there. I live in London. I do not have space for more than a 32-inch TV in my living room.
So finally, David, I have to ask, what do you think is going to be the secret to keeping virtual reality, you know, in the mainstream consciousness and stop it being a fad like it was all the way back in the early 90s?
I think there need to be many touch points with virtual reality in order for it to take off, at least as a mainstream proposition. You look back at the early days of gaming, it wasn't very many people who played gaming. Obviously now that's broadened out enormously. You know, there are 40 million PlayStation 4s out there that obviously can have a PlayStation VR. Maybe a smaller number of PCs, who knows, you know, you do need to have a fair amount of grunt, but everyone's got a mobile phone, right? And these, you know, these things, Google Cardboard, Google's been investing a lot of money in to make sure that we can have kind of snackable experiences. And you think about the difference between console gaming, PC gaming, and mobile phone gaming, you know, it's casual gaming. And I think that a lot of people are not going to want to spend hundreds of pounds, at least to begin with, on virtual reality headsets. But, you know, with little things like a mobile phone and this, I mean, this is...
Oh, you have a gadget.
I have a gadget.
We like a gadget.
So, you know, it's a virtual reality headset that folds out. It is just the size of a mobile phone, and you just pop it out like that. This is actually on Kickstarter at the moment. It's a London company called Goblin VR. And you literally pop your phone in the front of it, like this. Now, your mobile phone's got everything you need for VR. It's got a good high-resolution screen. It's got the motion detection. It's also got the games platform. It's really cheap for developers to develop for mobile phones.
There are already Bluetooth controllers available that are compatible with mobile.
Well, exactly. And, you know, that's it. I can carry that around in my pocket, and I've got a really good VR experience on here.
Fantastic.
App developers aren't having to choose between Oculus or HTC Vive or, PlayStation VR. They go, right, well, you know, it's kind of Google Cardboard type platforms. This fits in my pocket. I can take this wherever I want to go. I can snack on a game for 5 minutes. Stuff like this opens up virtual reality to a much broader audience and gets people on board. And then maybe if they decide that they like it, that is when they'll say, well, actually, I might get it for my PlayStation 4.
Great. David, thank you very, very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.
That's it for this week. Like the Video Game Nation Facebook page, tweet at us at #VGN, and if you take away anything from Firewatch, never go camping or outside. Bye.
Tonight at 8 here on Challenge Slug.